So my name is Ali Merchant, the founder and CEO of IQ3 Connect. I think the previous speakers have set a very high bar, so I'll try to do my best. We're building, very fast, easy, and scalable 3D technology to help educators, communicate and teach and learn complex ideas. And why do we care about this? Because it's amazing the number of complex systems that are coming around us. You look at the EVs, we drive in them every day, but I mean, if you have a peek under the hood, it's just incredible, right? And you look at the next generation spacecraft and you see all this EV and clean tech technologies, and you would imagine, can you bring this into the Boston high school classroom? How would you do that? How would you educate this next generation about these complex systems and technologies? We're stuck with this, right? I mean, this is great. We love our teams. We love the Zoom. I mean, it's a game changer, and it's done a tremendous job in COVID for education, but it has its limitations. And you end up with a situation like this where I'm trying to explain something, or disassemble or teach my son how to take apart a lawnmower, and I can't do that in a Zoom environment. So imagine if you could bring these EVs and bring it into the classroom and say, hey, just disassemble it and go learn about it. And, it's an incredible opportunity and potential if you can really make this 3D technology easy and accessible. These are very expensive systems, like, anywhere from $1 million to $5 million. Companies like Boeing and GM have these systems, and they're using them to solve real engineering problems. One of the amazing things is that they have engineers in India who have never seen how big some of these, they may be building a massive diesel engine, and they just don't know how big it is because they've never been to a manufacturing facility. So these things provide, very accurate 3D perspective and the ability to take apart, a machine or solve real engineering problems. But how do we bring this into the schools? So over the last decade, everybody's heard about VR, Meta, and the metaverse, and so on and so forth. And, the cost has dropped tremendously, where I can buy this $300 headset and, they are coming into the classrooms, but they haven't really been adopted. And, we've been thinking about this problem and in my company and thinking about, where are the challenges. And one of the things is that it takes a lot of development expertise to build content. You have to create an app, and the app has a content in it, and then maybe some school can download it, but it has a very short shelf life, and the teachers are not engaged. The teachers don't sort of own that content creation or that ability to create that open environment. So that has really stymied the use of these technologies in education and even in industry. So we need a more open environment. Instead of developing apps that require studios and lots, I mean, how many educators know C#, right? Or C++. But even if educators do know, teachers do know that, they don't have the time to create these apps. And so it's really a huge bottleneck. This is incredible because when I learned about this, a bunch of smart Google and Mozilla developers put in this incredible protocol, this open standard into web browsers. And there are 5 billion web browsers today on the internet. So you can imagine every device has a web browser. And it has this WebXR protocol in there, which gives you a portal to the 3D world. So I can choose some really incredible examples of how the simple web browser can make 3D accessible to pretty much anyone. Let's see a quick demo of the web-based collaborative learning spaces. So as you can see, I'm in a browser. I'm going to just open a new tab and paste in this link. And this is just like a Zoom in 3D. I don't have to install anything. I'm using a browser and I don't need any apps, and that eliminates a lot of the friction points in sharing these learning spaces in a classroom or in learning environments. So I requested my colleague Tanay, who is in Pune, India, to join this collaborative workspace and lead this spatial learning experience. And I am here on the TEDx stage in Boston. Hi, Tanay. And Tanay is also using a web browser, but because of the WebXR protocol, he can also plug in a headset and simply use this XR button to jump into an immersive 3D environment. Tanay, could you load up the engine model? So this is like a virtual sandbox where you can very quickly load up 3D content, 3D assets. Tanay, can you show us around the engine a little bit? So Tane is going to guide us around this engine. Can you go around to the side maybe so we can look at the length of the engine?
Yep.
And now I'm just going to step back a little bit, and Tane is going to, so now I have my own perspective, and Tane is going to remove the front casing so we can look inside the engine. And there are a lot of details that one can share from an educational perspective. Great. So as you can see here, I have my own perspective. Tane is in his own 3D space. Now, Tane, can we load up some of the other models in the space?
Sure. I'm loading some other models.
So this is a virtual sandbox. As you can see, I now have three very interesting models in here. One is this space capsule, which is a really nice learning model from the Smithsonian 3D archive. And I can look around here and create, a really exciting learning experience for kids. And Tane is in here as well. Tane, I can follow him inside the space. And as an educator, he can guide me through the space very nicely. And I'm going to now exit out of this and quickly look at the third model, which is a tiny CubeSat. So as you can see, we can pull in really interesting data and create learning experiences in this virtual sandbox. And also look at the scale. So we can see the large engine, the capsule, and a really tiny CubeSat. So let me show you, 3 or 4 examples of how this provides a very simple, open and accessible environment to bring 3D into the classrooms, to really educate and really bring it anywhere to anyone. So this was during COVID. That's a 7th grader. He was totally bored, sitting in front of a Zoom meeting, and they had to do projects. And that was the time of the Mars lander. And so they had to do a project on it and putting pictures, or videos. And he just went to the NASA website. And at that time, we had a very simple prototype of this web-based Zoom environment, a 3D environment, not a flat screen, but really a 3D environment. And so he went and downloaded this 3D model and brought it into this environment and shared a link in his Google Classroom. And so now, instead of interacting just with his teacher, he had his whole classroom engaged in an interactive 3D learning space. And that was a kind of a very inspirational moment for me, because it just solved this problem of how do you, bring this technology into the classroom and make it super easy. And in this case, he didn't even use a VR headset. It was just the spatial environment and the interaction with the other kids. And there was no app here. It was just a simple web link that enabled him to make this accessible. And you can extend that, and you could bring the whole world into it, right? I mean, it doesn't have to stop at his classroom. So this is one example of really bringing this 3D technology into the classroom. The second one is a parent over the weekend, in a couple of hours, was able to put this together for his 5th grader, right? Now, there are other ways to do it, but they're very expensive. They can take months. You need developers, but he was able to do this in just a couple of hours, created this Mars experience that his kids could see. And you can see here that you can experience it in a web browser. There's a web browser running on a $300 headset that he's using. So there's no C++, there's no C#, there's no app development, and all those complexities have gone away. In less than 2 hours, he had this up and running, and you can see you can create highly interactive environment here. This is a 3D environment, and now I can see this piece of Mars right in my home. And so this is another example. And then as we go further, you can bring this into large MOOC learning platforms like Coursera. So if you look at Coursera, you'll find a lot of courses on VR, teach you how to create a VR application or become a 3D expert, but you don't need to do that. It's a learning tool. And here inside this web page, you can embed the 3D technology. So now you can go from reading about it, and you may be, good at, and then you can just jump into this 3D environment right from within a web page. And then from that, you can jump in, put this right in front of a desktop, right in front of you, and then start taking it apart. So that's the power of using this web browser technology that we've been able to exploit and really bring this into the classroom in a way that has never been, at least I'm not aware, that has been done before. And the final example is a real world example where this was used to help design and accelerate the development of the next generation space shuttle. And this was enabled by a high school teacher. This is Shane here, has been teaching in a Colorado high school for 25 years. And in a matter of like 8 weeks, he was able to implement this browser-based technology. Not only did it help them speed up the design of that spacecraft, but now he's taking that back to his classroom to teach STEM. So now he's implementing this browser, this 3D spatial technology in his classroom. And this was recognized by the White House Space Council, the success of this collaboration. And the Colorado Department, I should also acknowledge the Colorado Department of Labor, were also very innovative where they brought this together. But this is a really interesting example of this very simple technology really making an impact in the real world and then bringing that back into the classroom. And that's it. Thanks for listening. I have many more examples, but really what we're trying to do is create a tool that can accelerate the world's ability to share and absorb complex ideas. Thank you very much.